Now, classification of accounting. Now, I said we'll be starting with the problem. So, before that, especially for this class, is meant for the non-commerce students, much more important rather than the commerce students, because commerce students are already been known with the, what is mean by classification of accounting. So here remember ma, the classification of accounting is being divided mainly, like what is mean by classification. So we said like we are going to, accounting is like we are going to record it, we are going to classify it, we are going to summarize it, then we are going to analyze it, interpret it, and we are going to publicize it. So these all things has to happen, means the first foremost thing is about recording. So when we go for recording of these things, now in the business there are n number of things happening. There are n number of events happening. There are n number of transactions happening. So these kind of a things, how there should be certain procedure which makes us very easy and simple in recording all these transactions. So for recording all these transactions, they have mainly divided these kind of a transactions into five formats. One, we are going to call them as assets kind of a transactions, all the asset accounts, liabilities account, incomes account, expenses account, and a personal account. So overall, we are going to say the classification can be done, the division of the recording transactions, various kinds of transactions can be done mainly in these five formats. So what are the five formats I said? The first one is, it's about the personal account, then assets account, liabilities account, incomes account, and expenses account. So these are the five things. And what is my intention of recording all these things? I want to make as much as possible simplified format. I want to make the things to be simplified format so that it becomes very easy for me, because there are n number of transactions happening in my business. So among all these things, it should be very easy for me to go for understanding it and record it in my books of accounts. So that is the reason I want to make it a simplified format of recording. So to make it this simplified formats, whatever are there, I have divided into three main categories instead of like as I said, five categories of personal assets, in liabilities, income and incomes, expenses. These five again I have made it even more simplifier and have adjusted under three different categories only. So when I say what are these three different categories, here the first thing comes is this one. Usually we call it as a two categories only, na, personal and impersonal. But here, as I said, we are going to learn in the three formats. It becomes very easy. So usually we say it as three, mainly two. One is personal, one is impersonal. But again, impersonal is subdivided into real and nominal. So mainly two categories are there: personal and impersonal. Impersonal is again subdivided as real and nominal. But overall, we are going to call the best for easy format is we make it as a three category. So in that first category is personal account. Then comes is the real account. Next is nominal account. లైక్ దిస్ వీఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు కేటగరైజ్. సో ఓవరాల్గా ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇంకా చెప్పాలి అంటే టూ వే కేటగిరీస్ అన్నాను, కానీ చదివేటప్పుడు ఎలాగో మళ్ళీ సబ్ డివిజన్ త్రీ పార్ట్స్గా చేస్తాం కాబట్టి సో చెప్పడమే ఐఎమ్ టెలింగ్ యూ ఇన్ ద త్రీ ఫార్మాట్స్: పర్సనల్, రియల్ అండ్ నామినల్. నౌ దీస్ త్రీ categories means whatever I said, there are five different kinds of transactions happening in the organization. That five different categories of transactions, now I have to adjust into these three categories only. So the first foremost, which cannot be separated, is the personal. So among the five, that is personal, assets, liabilities, incomes, expenses, personal, I'm making it totally separate. So what is that? I am making all the personal into this account only. So who all will be in this one is all the related persons will be in the part of personal account. So who all will be part of this one? The first foremost is owner ma. So owner, here we are going to represent him as capital. Next is drawings. So drawings is also again owner itself. What is that? I'll tell you. Then after that, other companies. We usually will have a kind of a transactions with other companies also, no? The next comes is creditors, and next comes is debtors. Usually we'll call bank or other thing banker also as a personal only ma, but here I'm not telling you, I'm not showing you. Even loans also called as a personal only. So why? Because mainly banks also first they get registered as a under Companies Act only. Later only the Banking Act is going to be applied on them. So these are the things. But as of now, when we record it again, non-commerce students should not have a issue. So that's the reason I'm not telling in detail. These are the main categories I am telling you. The personal means the owner, the other companies, the creditors, and the debtors. So personals, usually we are going to, it's very common that we are going to have a transactions with the first foremost is if for any kind of a business, the first foremost initial investment is very important. పెట్టుబడి అంటాం పెట్టుబడి. సో ఇనీషియల్ ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్ వాట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ కాల్డ్ యాజ్ ఇనీషియల్ ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్. సో పెట్టుబడి అన్నమాట. So I always say that for a company, the persons are not that much important. The transaction is important. We were from the beginning we were seeing. I usually call it as a events, transactions, occurrence ani antam kani. We'll never use the word of a persons, because for us when we are into the business, everything we see what is the cash happening to my cash. What is cash? Is it cash is coming in, it is cash is going out? Everywhere we are going to see the happening of the transaction, and that happening affecting my organization. So that is what I'm going to look into in every part of a transactions. So what I'm going to do is, here even if a owner who is actually supplying me the cash, for him also I'm not going to treat or highlight his name. Here I'm going to highlight his name as the capital. So when I'm going to use the word a capital, capital means initial investment. Capital means initial investment anamata. So whenever I use the word called a capital, automatically it is nothing but the owner is something, he is getting something in the form of investment, the initial investment. So that is what we are going to call it as. And the same person, like sometimes as he is getting something, he'll try to take something also in return. Like usually let us say మనదే బిజినెస్ అనుకోండి. మన బిజినెస్ అన్నప్పుడు మన ఎంత బిజినెస్ అయినా కూడా నాకు ప్రాఫిట్ ఎర్న్ చేస్తున్నానా లాస్ ఇంకర్ అవుతుందా తెలుసుకోవడానికి బిజినెస్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్ మాత్రమే నేను చెయ్యాలి. అలా కాకుండా మిగతా అదర్ థింగ్స్ నేను గనక ఇన్వాల్వ్ చేశాను అంటే దోస్ బికమ్స్ ద అవుట్ ఆఫ్ బిజినెస్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్సే అవుతాయి. So like for example, I have a rice mill. I am doing a business of selling the good rice for people. Now నాదే కదా మిల్ అనేసి నా ఓన్గా నేను తీసుకున్నాను అంటే వితౌట్ అ క్యాష్ ఇట్స్ సమ్వేర్ హార్మింగ్ మై ప్రాఫిట్ ఆర్ నాట్. సో దాట్స్ ద రీజన్ ఈవెన్ ఇన్ దీస్ బిజినెస్ ఆల్సో దిస్ ఇస్ డన్. సో వాట్ దే డూ ఇస్ క్యాపిటల్ అనగానే ఇట్ ఈస్ రిప్రజెంటెడ్ దట్ సమ్ ఓనర్ ఈస్ గెటింగ్ సమ్ అమౌంట్ ఆఫ్ మనీ. Likewise, when drawings anagane, it is understood that the owner is taking something in return to it. So that is what the representation the person is. Means here will not give the person a person name nak highlight and anide avsram ledu. Only the transaction kind is important for me. Likewise, other companies, like other companies, and I'm saying that I'm purchasing a rice mill or something like that. So obviously, what I need a vehicle for transportation of my rice bags from here and there. So obviously, I took a vehicle from Mahindra, whatever it is. So obviously, Mahindra owner ni consider చేయట్లేదు. What is that I'm talking about? The company's name is important for me. So I purchased the vehicle of a Mahindra four wheeler, Mahindra truck. So that vehicle name is important. So that is what here I'm going to That is what here I'm going to take into consideration. So this is what here the company is the transaction where I'm going to involve with the other kind of a transaction where I will highlight the kind of a company name but not the owner of that one. So andike akkada a company again companies means what companies again are artificial persons. So that's why companies name highlight chestam. And then next one is creditors or debtors anamata. So creditors ane వాళ్ళు మనం గూడ్స్ అనేవి క్రెడిట్ బేసిస్‌లో తీసుకుంటే, లేదా లోన్ తీసుకొని ఉంటే, సో, అలాంటి వాటిని మనం క్రెడిటార్స్ అని అంటామనమాట. అండ్ ఇక్కడ కూడా నేను ఒక పర్సన్‌ని నేను హైలైట్ చేయట్లేదు. ఐ యామ్ హైలైటింగ్ 2 ఆర్ 3 పీపుల్ టుగెదర్ క్లబ్డ్ ఐ యామ్ గోయింగ్ టు రైట్ ఎ వర్డ్ కాల్డ్ క్రెడిటార్. అంతేకాని రమేష్ దగ్గర నేను క్రెడిట్‌లో రైస్ తీసుకున్నాను. లేదా సో అండ్ సో లైక్ రామ్ దగ్గర నుంచి నేను లోన్ తీసుకున్నాను. అలా నేను ఆ పర్టిక్యులర్ పేర్లు నేను హైలైట్ చెయ్యను. ఫర్ మీ ద నేమ్స్ ఆర్ నాట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. The transaction, the occurrence, the events are important. So that's why if any kind of a things are happening, I'll club all the people's name and make one word as a creditor. లైక్ వైజ్ డేటాస్ కూడా సేల్స్ నేను చేస్తాను క్రెడిట్ బేసిస్‌లో. సో, ఒకరికే సేల్ చేస్తానా? అలా ఎంతో వందల మందికి చేసుకుంటూ కూర్చుంటాను సేల్స్. సో, అలాంటప్పుడు ప్రతి ఒక్కడి పేరు నేను బుక్స్ ఆఫ్ రికార్డ్స్‌లో రాయడం అవసరమా? అందుకే సింపుల్‌గా ఏం చేస్తాము డేటాస్ ఇంత అమౌంట్ నాకు ఇలా డేటాస్ దగ్గర నుంచి రావాలి అన్నట్టుగా టోటల్ అమౌంట్ డేటాస్ అన్నట్టుగా మనం రాసిస్తామనమాట. సో, దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ హియర్ వి ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు డూ ఇట్. అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ so this is about this thing personal, and then one is the real account. రియల్ అకౌంట్ అనేది సింపుల్ గా చెప్పాలి అంటే ఇట్ ఈస్ సంథింగ్ మెటీరియలిస్టిక్ ఫార్మాట్. మెటీరియలిస్టిక్ అని అంటాము. లేదా అయ్యప్ప మెటీరియలిస్టిక్ దీన్ని క్యాష్ లేదా క్యాష్ కి ఈక్వలెంట్ టు క్యాష్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్‌ని మనం ఈ కేటగరీలో ఏస్తాం. సో, బెస్ట్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఏంటి అంటే అసెట్స్, లయబిలిటీస్ అనమాట. అసెట్స్, లయబిలిటీస్ కలిపితే ఇది అనమాట. సో, ఇక్కడ ఏంటి అంటే రియల్ అని అన్నాను. అంటే సంథింగ్ లైక్ విచ్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు యాడ్ టు మై వాల్యూ ఆర్ విచ్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు రెడ్యూస్ మై వాల్యూ ఐదర్ ద వే. సో, రియల్ మీన్స్ వాట్? అ మెటీరియలిస్టిక్ పొజిషన్. అంటే అది ఉండడం వల్ల నా వాల్యూ అనేది పెరిగినట్టు చూపిస్తుంది. లేదా అవి ఉండడం వల్ల నా వాల్యూ అనేది తగ్గినట్టు చూపిస్తుందనమాట. సో, అలాంటి వాటిని ద డైరెక్ట్ రిలేషన్ వెరెన్ వి సే థట్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ పొసెసింగ్ దోస్ థింగ్స్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు షో high in your value or show decrease in your value, those kind of a things we are going to call as real account. We are going to categorize them as a real account, and these real accounts are going to have a direct effect and are going to be directly adding value to the business anamata. So for example, if I say that I am into the same rice mill example. So I am possessing what? Vehicle అన్నాను. Vehicle if I am possessing myself అది నేను అప్పు whatever it is, I have having a vehicle అని అన్నప్పుడు it is something like a value adding. Oh, it's my own vehicle. So it is going to add ఆ పొజిషన్ నా దగ్గర ఉంది అంటే నేను రెంట్ తీసుకోకుండా నేను నా కోసం నేను కొనేసాను ఆ వెహికల్‌ని. సో నాకు బిజినెస్‌లో అవసరం ఉంటుంది అనేసి. సో when I am possessing that one, it is increasing. I have a truck. It's not a worthy less kada. It's a worth of it. Having those kind of asset is the worth of it. So అలాంటప్పుడు అలాంటి situation ని we call it as a something adding value. Let assume that to purchase the rice bags or something like that నేను బిజినెస్ పెట్టడానికి వాట్ ఐ హ్యావ్ డన్ ఇట్ టు లేదా అదే వెహికల్ని కొనడానికి నేను అప్పు తీసుకున్నాను అనుకుందాం. సో ద వెహికల్ కాస్టెడ్ మీ సమ్ 10 lakhs అన్నప్పుడు ఐ టుక్ అరౌండ్ 8 lakhs లోన్ ఫర్ దట్ వన్. So what is that it is going to show you? So somewhere it is going to show that the vehicle is yours, it is something a benefit only. But at the same time, 8 lakhs worth of loan you have it. So somewhere your value is not equal to possessing the
value of asset. So these kind of materialistic position which is going to hike your value or decrease your value, అలాంటి categories అన్నిటిని మనం రియల్ లోకి వేస్తాం. అండ్ దెన్ కమ్స్ ఇస్ ద నామినల్. సో నామినల్ అనేది ఏంటంటే ఈ రెండిట్లో డైరెక్ట్ గా లేనిది ఇందులోకి వస్తాయి. అంటే ఏదైనా సరేమా, దీస్ ఆల్ ఆర్ ద డైరెక్ట్ యాక్టివిటీస్ విచ్ హ్యాపన్ ఇన్ ద ఆర్గనైజేషన్. The things which are going to help to happen this like smooth running of the things. Without these things, without the smooth running of these things, these may not work properly అన్న వాటివన్నీ మనం నామినల్ అని అంటాం. Might be they are just namesake, but still without this the smooth running of these above two transactions are not possible. So that's all those kind of a things we are going to put it into this one. So those are my expenses and incomes. So whatever I said here, I need to go for unloading and loading of rice bags in my vehicle. సో అలాంటప్పుడు ఎవరు చేస్తారు? అవంతటికి అవైతే ఎగిరి రావు కదా! సో సమ్‌వన్ లేబర్ షుడ్ బి దేర్. సో లేబర్‌కి నేనేం పే చేస్తాను? ఐయామ్ గోయింగ్ టు పే వేజ్ రేట్. సో దట్ ఈస్ మై ఎక్స్‌పెన్సెస్ ఫర్ దట్ పర్టిక్యులర్ పీరియడ్ ఆఫ్ టైమ్. సో ఆ ఎక్స్‌పెన్సెస్ నేను ఇన్‌కర్ చెయ్యకపోతే ఈ పొజిషన్ అనేది నాకు ఉంటుందా? సో దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ హియర్ వి సే దట్ ఈవి అనేది డైరెక్ట్ కాకపోవచ్చు. ఇండైరెక్ట్ ఉండొచ్చు. బట్ స్టిల్ వితౌట్ ఇఫ్ వి వోంట్ ఇన్‌కర్ దీస్ థింగ్స్, స్మూత్ వర్కింగ్ ఆఫ్ దీస్ మే నాట్ be possible. So that is what here it is all about. Now this is done. So total transaction in three parts ka మనం divide చేసాం. The next thing is the dual aspect concept. So in the dual aspect concept, what we are saying, every transaction has to be split into two. Why it is to be split into two? It says that every transaction is going to have two effects. One, if it is having a benefit, means definitely it is going to have a loss or a sacrifice with it. So every transaction is going to have a two sides of it. One will be the benefit and annappudu definitely it is going to have a loss of it. So as an accountant here we are supposed to go for identifying those things. So which is the benefit and which is the loss అనేది accountant identify చేయాలి. సో టోటల్ ఓవరాల్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్ ని మనం త్రీ పార్ట్స్ గా డివైడ్ చేసాం. ఈ త్రీ పార్ట్స్ గా డివైడ్ చేసిన తర్వాత ప్రతి ట్రాన్సాక్షన్ రికార్డ్ చేసేటప్పుడు వాట్ ఈస్ సేయింగ్ స్ప్లిట్ ఇంటూ టూ. So that splitting, how I'm making into two, that is what we are going to see. So every splitting I'm making into what? Two parts. So what is that two parts? Now I'm going to tell. So here I'm going to have these two parts. So what are these two parts is have to name them. Certain we have to give a name, isn't it? So what is that name we are going to give to this one? We'll see. So for everything we are naming, we are giving a name as debit and one more is credit. So here one more thing is what? Credit. So here debit means we are going to have something benefit. So that's the reason we, whatever the division we have made it, we have split. I said every transaction is to be viewed into two formats. One is one benefit side, one is on the loss side. So what I'm going to do is a benefit debit side, one thing I'm going to see as first two bits, especially personal and the real, which are actual transactions which occur and which affect my business, I said no. So these actual transactions of my personal and real, I take debit as the benefit side, which is going to increase my value, and credit side I'm going to take which decreases my value. Okay, because I said my classification among these personal and the real are the two main activities which are directly are going to count whether I'm earning a benefit or a loss, whether what is my position in the market. So that is the reason whatever the transactions of business are there, I said we need to split into two, and one we should see benefit, one we should see loss. So that's why for these two things of personal and real, the debit I am making it as something increasing the value. Credit I will record those transactions which is going to decrease my value. Okay, so first one, debit. Now it is personal అని అన్నా కదా. సో personal అన్నప్పుడు persons ని మనం represent చేస్తున్నప్పుడు how we are going to write debit the receiver, because on the debit side I said it is going to increase the value అన్నాను కదా. So debit the receiver, and credit he is on the sacrificing side, so that's why the giver అని అంటాం. So debit the receiver, credit the giver. So this is the first thing we are going to go for it. So first we are going to go for this thing and matter. So this is the way we are going to go for recording. So first thing, one second. So first and foremost, regarding personal, I'm going to record in this manner. What is that, ma? Debit, the receiver, credit, the giver. So debit, what I said, it will always increase my value. So that's why the receiver will be on the topmost side. And the credit means he will somewhere he's sacrificing. So that's why the sacrificer will be on the credit side. So we are going to write as the giver. And the next one in the real account. Now this is what I said, it is a materialistic format అన్నాను కదా. So materialistic format kabatti again I'm going to divide as a debit only, but we call it as what comes in. And next, the credit I'm going to write as what goes out. So in simple, here the debit I'm going to have assets which are going to increase my value. Having them is like increasing my value. And this is going to be liabilities which are going to possessing them is something like a loss for me. So it is going to decrease my value. So debit what comes in means indirectly we are talking about assets which having or possessing them is going to increase my company's value. And credit what goes out is the liabilities. Possessing these liabilities is somewhere is going to decrease my value. So this is how I have split into two. And the last thing is about nominal. So, what did I said? First main two things matram. Mana personal, real అనేవి ఇవి మన two main things కాబట్టి debit always will see as what is coming in or who is the receiver. Means always debit will see something benefit, something rise in value, and credit will see what is going out, something on a sacrificing end. సో ఒకటి బెనిఫిట్ ఒకటి సాక్రిఫైసింగ్ ఈ రెండు మనం క్లియర్ తీసేసుకున్నాం. మరి నామినల్కి వచ్చేసరికి విల్ ఫాలో ద కన్వెన్షన్ రూల్. వాట్ ఈస్ అ కన్వెన్షన్ రూల్ సేస్ మా? కన్వెన్షన్ ఆఫ్ కన్జర్వేటిజం రూల్. కన్వెన్షన్ ఆఫ్ కన్జర్వేటిజం రూల్. కన్వెన్షన్ ఆఫ్ కన్జర్వేటిజం రూల్ మనకి ఏం చెప్తుంది? వాట్ డస్ ఇట్ సేస్? ఇట్ సేస్ దట్ you are going to take into consideration of expenses and losses and be prepared, but do not consider incomes until you receive in your hands. So that is what my nominal account actually we recorded. So we follow purely the convention of conservatism, wherein it says that follow the transactions, follow the things wherein incurring those kind of expenses or taking into consideration those kind of a losses is going to increase your value. Nowhere it is going to put you into trouble. Whereas incomes and losses, you are going to take give a next priority, because you have to take into consideration only when you actually receive the cash in your hand. So that is what in the convention of conservatism we have learnt it. Same thing here we are going to apply. So here in the debit, what we are going to is all expenses and losses, and it says that you be prepared for these kind of a things, because it will help you in falling from the trouble in the future. And credit, then you consider incomes all incomes and gains. So what it says, first you consider all expenses and losses, be prepared for it. Then you think about your incomes and gains. So that is what here it all about, your classification of accounting says.